Greetings, you're listening to the Cold Call Lawcast, the Minnesota Law School podcast featuring students from the University of Minnesota Law School, the University of St. Thomas School of Law, and the Mitchell Hamline School of Law. Welcome everyone to the Cold Call Lawcast. I'm Mitch, a law student at the University of St. Thomas School of Law, and with me are my co-hosts Hannah.
Hey.
From the University of Minnesota Law School, Anthony.
Hello. From
the Mitchell Hamline School of Law, and Abby.
Hello.
From the University of Minnesota Law School. Today is a special episode because now we're playing the Law School Bachelorette.
Woo!
So, thanks, Anthony. This two-part episode features our co-host and Bachelorette, Abby.
That's me.
She'll choose between law school bachelors, one from each of the three Minnesota law schools. Now, for those first-time listeners, Abby is our co-host and producer here. Abby's smart, beautiful, funny, which makes her clearly way too good for these guys that are in the room right now.
I'm not
so
I'm not coming back.
She has not signed a contract.
Yeah.
There's
They
no
have
contracts here. Not sure what I didn't sign up for.
Don't worry about
Mitch always wanted to be a bachelorette, so this is kind of more fulfilling.
I'm living vicariously through Abby right now. So
He's actually going to choose the winner. That's what's going to happen.
So with that, let's meet the bachelors.
I'm Thomas Mananen. I'm from Mitchell Hamline School of Law. I am a 1L. And I guess a little bit about me. My undergrad was in political science and criminal justice. I was a double major, for whatever that's worth. I consider myself to be pretty funny, as you will find out over the course of however long this lasts. I have great self-confidence, but I absolutely care about what you think of me, and may cry if I don't get at least one rose.
I'm Zach Donahue. I'm from the University of St. Thomas School of Law. I'm a 2L. I did my undergrad in economics and history, double major, so I'm just as special as you are. So you're just as special as me. So that's a lowering the bar, actually. So that standard is really not that high. But yeah, it should be a fun time today.
I'm Jacob Lanthier from the University of Minnesota Law School. I'm a 2L. I went to the U of M for...
You're also being judged on mic skills. So.
No, I didn't see that in the contract.
Oh, gosh.
See, I made them sign a contract, not you guys.
Being judged for every single move. What is this, my last relationship?
Oh, God.
No, it's your
God.
next one.
All right, go ahead, Jacob.
Oh, I studied classics and history, double major. At the U of M.
Really low.
The bar is very low. We're all pretty terrible at this. And I'm very technologically inept, so I'm self-conscious about that.
Okay, wait, how many points are we giving for everybody being a double major? Is that like a negative one?
That's negative 2
I
at
think they
least.
tied it. I think that's 0 for all of them. Yeah, all of you are double majors.
Okay, everybody's a double major. I guess
That's 0
that
for
cancels
everybody.
out. So okay.
Now,
Overachievers.
for those
still-
for those at home, Hannah is actually keeping score. We were gonna have Hannah as our bachelorette,
Oh, no one
but
wants that.
then I thought about it, and like her idea of a date is like locking a guy in the cage in her basement and finding how long they'll like actually survive. So I figure we didn't.
Me
need
and
that
Hannah may
kind
have
of
to
a-
talk after the show.
How long
It's a
did survive without using the capitalist structure?
Okay, just so you know, Mitch, that was a long time ago, and we didn't go on a second date for several reasons. And I am much happier in my position as czar/scorekeeper, and there are no guidelines because I will choose as we go along how I feel about.
I'd like to point out
how
that
you're
the
scoring.
Tsar was assassinated.
That's my goal.
So let's stay with Jacob, and I want to ask you a little bit more about your background. First, what did you do before coming to law school at the University of Minnesota?
Like the average gunner, I went straight through from undergrad.
So did Abby. Wow.
Wow. All right.
Really? Were we giving points for K through J?
Otherwise, I worked at a small litigation boutique firm that did insurance and asbestos defense.
-4.
What about-
-4.
The biggest shout asbestos has ever gotten.
Have you or a loved one been?
So we have a lot of asbestos connections in here. Anthony works for a law firm that does some work.
Oh, I do. I do all asbestos defense work, so I'm the one defending the big corporations. So
That's what I did.
And then our producer Nick over here, he's a scientist and he works to analyze materials to find out if there's asbestos in your home or office building.
And I inhale copious amounts of asbestos, thanks to the office buildings built by your companies.
you're welcome.
So
This studio.
It's ventilated.
It's ventilated. I think they have it under control.
yeah,
At
it's
least we
fine.
know
We're
people.
As long
fine.
as you don't break it, it's fine.
We're fine.
Fun fact: asbestos fibers can stay floating in the air without any wind for like 72 hours. So
That's what people came here to learn. Okay.
So Jacob, where all did you apply? What was your process for deciding to go to the U of M?
First, I applied to the U of M because, I went to undergrad here. But otherwise, I just applied to the local area schools, Mitchell and Thomas, and then also Michigan and Iowa. The U of M just happened to be closest. Best way to get groceries from my parents. And it was the cheapest for me.
Okay, perfect. And what are some of the best and worst parts of your experience at the U of M law school so far?
I certainly like the people there.
Okay.
Otherwise, school is hell. Like everybody here knows, I'm sure. I live in a basic dungeon with no windows, so that's fun.
Are you talking about your house or are you talking about school? Because that's going to affect how Abby wants to go on another
I don't know.
That's just Mondale Hall.
The school, I actually like the architecture of the Mondale Hall, so I don't know how I feel about that. But I
believe
also
that
am a
every
double
building
gopher, so
from the 80s should be destroyed.
I think it's beautiful, and I love the dark dungeon. Like right now, we're in a 6th floor dungeon.
It's quite a
Well,
vibe.
Rapson, that guy.
It's a very groovy vibe.
As some of us have noticed, you're pretty short. How
I
tall?
am.
How tall are you?
I'm only about 6'9".
You're 6'9".
No.
Wow.
Yes.
What? Are you
Yes.
really? Okay, 6'9".
Yes.
Wow, that's kind of short. Okay,
Just a little
we're
bit.
hoping for taller. Now I'll ask you.
I'm sorry.
Next.
I didn't come here to win.
Now, I'll ask you what everybody probably asks you about, like your high school days back then. You're really tall. Were you ever in the Glee Club in high school?
I don't think we had a Glee Club.
Oh, okay.
No,
What's
I was
a
in the
Glee
German
Club?
club.
Glee Club? You don't know what the Glee Club is?
She doesn't
Singing?
watch TV.
Oh, that's right.
Based off a TV show.
Called Glee.
It's based.
They're actually formed
Wait, how-
after that show came out.
Yeah, how old?
They invented Glee clubs. I don't think.
So it's like singing kids. Kids,
Yes.
kids
Yes,
that sing.
It's singing, yes.
So
it's singing.
choir.
Choir group.
Choir.
Yes.
It's choir team.
Okay. Anyway,
More jazz hands.
Right.
Yes.
moving along.
Okay. So, Tommy, you are our 1L here, and so why don't you tell us, a little bit about yourself and kind of what you did before you went to Mitchell Hamline.
So I was born in Los Angeles, California, spent about 8 years there, then moved to small town nowhere, Minnesota, way up by Canada, International Falls. The actual town was called Little Fork. My graduating class was 26, so then I decided to go to college, double major, get that done in 3 years because I got to take some classes in high school. So I'm 21 years old at law school in St. Paul, so I went from a big city to cold, the frozen tundra, and kind of worked my way up to St. Paul, Minnesota.
And so what made you decide to choose Mitchell Hamline over any other law school or to go back to the summers in Southern California?
I ask myself that every winter.
Me too, yeah.
No. Well, I applied to law school. I took my LSAT really late. It was like the last deadline I could have possibly hit. So well prepared, definitely a great way to apply my schoolwork. But I decided, went into my advisor's office and said, hey, I kind of want to go to law school. And he was like, way too late to do that. But I took the LSAT, did pretty good on that, and wanted to stay in Minnesota, hometown. And hey, Justice Berger graduated from there. So Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, that's something we have on
The only school in the Twin Cities that actually has a Supreme Court nominee or justice from it.
Supreme and Chief
and
Justice
Chief
at
Justice,
that.
yeah.
That's something we distinguish ourselves from Yale. We have a Chief Justice who graduated.
That's the only thing we got.
Awesome. And so, what have been your best and worst parts of your experience at Mitchell Hamline?
Oh, so my best has got to be the professors. Actually, very entertaining in class, I'd say. You know, you've got some personalities that didn't have. The worst part by far is realized that my undergrad writing skills that I developed for 3 years, completely worthless when it comes to legal writing. Had to start at square one just like everybody else. So the
It was
leg
all
up,
like lyrics beforehand, like emo punk lyrics.
Exactly. This is my audition for a new band.
And so, Zach, go ahead. What did you do before you came to St. Thomas?
So originally I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. Grew up there, graduated high school there, and then I decided to go be a nomad and move across the country to Spokane, Washington, where I did my undergrad at Gonzaga University. Played a bunch of rugby there, and I graduated, and I'm like, you know what, let's do this law school thing because that'll be fun. So then I decided to move across the country again and ended up in Minneapolis.
So how long did you play rugby for?
I've been playing for 10 years. So
10 years.
I started in
Okay.
high school.
So does that give him some score in athleticism? I'm looking at
Put a sports ball.
Yeah, that is a ball for
What
sports.
does KJ stand for?
K through J is like when you start in kindergarten and then you go to law school,
Is that a T-Rex?
but you don't stop.
It's a gopher.
Oh,
That-
I thought it was a T-Rex.
I was hoping it was
I
a
thought
T-Rex.
It doesn't.
Picture that
Those are lungs.
Your
Why?
I
'Cause I'm
feel like your
coughing.
scoring is very subjective. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't know anything about scoring. This
Mitch,
is
that's
the
it.
most.
Mitch, that's accurate. Look at him.
Thank you. It's tried and true. This is a very
Wait, how come
objective
I have
system.
why is my name? Why is my name even up
That's
there?
actually an orb.
There's a zero by my name
Yeah.
as well.
It's an orb.
An orb.
Sees the future. Duh. See, you obviously don't know anything about the scoring scheme. It will be calculated at the end. I'm the only one with the experience to handle this. It's okay.
And so, Zach, where all did you apply, and kind of what was your process for deciding? Okay, let's do St. Thomas.
So the first time I took the LSAT was my senior year, and about 2.5 weeks prior, I broke my cheekbone and had a concussion, and still somehow didn't do absolutely terrible on the LSAT, but I wasn't happy with my score, so I retook the LSAT and then was waiting on a few schools, but I applied this kind of throughout the Midwest, St. Thomas, Chicago, Kent, Marquette, and then I also looked at the Gonzaga's law program, but I wasn't super happy with it, so I decided not to apply there. Got accepted into St. Thomas and decided to move across the country, and here I am. So, yeah.
Excellent. And so, what have been some of your best and worst parts of your experience at St. Thomas?
Getting cold called sucks, especially because we have a few professors who will grill you relentlessly for
And what
the
are their
sake of
their
grilling.
names? Let me write this down real quick here.
There's one of my professors, he'll divide you into sections, and then he'll call on each section each day, and he's like, you're on for the day. And he doesn't care if you're prepared or not prepared, and he will grill you through, and then if you get it wrong, he'll be very disappointed in the class, and then the next person will have to feel his wrath, which is even more terrifying. So hopefully you get in a groove when he's been calling on people and people have been doing well. So if you don't do great, he's still not mad at you because you weren't the worst person. But he would expect a little bit more from you. But it's kind of terrifying. But when you get it right and then you don't have to get called on for a while, it's relieving. So you don't have to worry as much for that class.
That's perfect, because we're going to cold call you here as well.
Yeah. So I've had lots of practice, so I'm
so-
ready to go. Yeah. Last semester we had a professor who really liked to call on me every other day, and it was the worst experience of my life because I would be prepared, but I just don't want to answer questions. That's no one likes to do that. And so she gave us passes that we could use we're not prepared, and I would just email her on days where I'm I just don't want to get called on. I'm prepared, but I'm just not going to get called on, so I can relax for a little bit. And so
how
I
many-
took full advantage of those.
Yeah, how many of those did you use?
I used all of them. I believe there were 4 of them. Okay. Yeah.
We got one.
Yeah.
You get one pass for each class.
Absolutely.
And at this point, I just want to say that all of my professors are smart, wonderful, and if they're listening to this, my name is Thomas Mannanen, Thomas.
I declined to kiss butt.
And so, Abby, how do all these guys? We've been here for almost 20 minutes. How do these guys stack up?
All right,
I mean-
so we've got this really handy diagram from Hannah.